Hey, we are live. You are watching and listening to Washington REIA. This is an October REIA meeting. Thank you so much for joining in. We take a few minutes here to let everybody kind of get a little bit comfortable and say hello. So if you're on tonight, feel free to say hello. It's always good to know as I'm talking into a screen that there's actually a few people listening to this. I do want to thank everyone for signing up. Many of you know these are obviously free tickets, but it does help us when you actually go to our site and sign up for a free ticket. Um, we've been doing this now for 20 years, 20 plus years, and we get hundreds of people opening up our emails and taking a look. But we also know that people know that the meeting is free. And by signing up, it just helps us track a little bit. The main tracking, to tell you the truth, is just really topics. You know, after doing this 20 years, we try to come up with topics that are relevant, topics that people are interested in. Generally, we do a pretty good idea of that, and I'll tell you why. But occasionally, we'll come up with a topic, and if we don't have a lot of free tickets, so we're not sure if people just kind of weren't interested, or if it just wasn't the right topic for that particular evening. So we do really appreciate y'all signing up for the tickets on a monthly basis. As far as topics go, you know, I'm going to kind of start off with that. One of the good things about Washington REIA, and we just finished up our live meetings for the year with our team of 23. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we're going to go forward with those live meetings a little bit later tonight. But the topics are generated really from our businesses. And when I say our businesses, myself, many of you know I'm still very active here in the Washington, D.C. metro area, buying, renovating, selling houses. Buying notes, own a number of rental properties here in other parts of the country, and I try to come up with topics that are relevant in my business, things that I'm seeing that are going on, good and bad, and then of course our network, our wider network, people that we talk to on a daily basis, partners of ours, private investors, contractors, other investors. Renters, landlords, all the things that are going around and swirling around the real estate investment world. That we're experiencing, that we're seeing, and we think, and hopefully we hit it most of the times, we think you'll be also interested in. So your feedback on topics is very helpful. And anytime you just want to text me or send us an email and say, hey, what about this? We are more than happy to read that and try to see if that's something that the vast majority of people would be interested in. Tonight, we're going to be talking about an very interesting topic that's kind of popped up here. Obviously, in the last 3 years, we wouldn't even been talking about this in 2018 or 2019. But with the pandemic and just the whole kind of upheaval, if you will, of the work life, we're going to be talking and thinking a little bit about the remote work phenomenon and how that affects us as real estate investors. But before we do that, again, as people kind of come through, one of the things that I've been seeing here this year, in the last 3 or 4 months, is just the business in general. Hey, Magaline, good to see you. Thanks for checking in with us. Something that we're seeing in the last 3 months, and this is not atypical of a fall market. Generally, the market kind of has patterns and trends and different ways of going. But the last few months, it seems like I've been hearing from more and more folks that everything is slowing down a little bit. I mean, their businesses are slowing down a little bit. And the clue for me, and I'm sure you're getting the same phone calls if you're in the real estate investment business, I'm actually receiving emails and phone calls from our different vendors, different folks around the business, like title companies calling me and inviting me to an educational lunch. It's never happened to me. Home inspectors calling me or texting me and saying, hey, they're having a special this month, and if you use their services, they'll knock off $50. Or hard money lenders reaching out and saying, hey, do you have any upcoming projects coming and going forward? And that's just a sign of people kind of searching for business, and good for them. It's good marketing, and it's something we all should be doing on a constant basis. But what happens, human nature, is when we're busy and when things are going well, we don't do as much marketing. We don't reach out to our database. We don't reach out to our customers. We don't take surveys, and we don't offer, really good deals because business is flowing, business is coming in. So it's definitely a sign that the overall real estate investment business, or real estate business in general, has been slowing down. You've seen that with the listings, with the supply. It's still somewhat lacking. And at our meeting, our live meeting on Saturday, we had with our team of 23. I mean, I was asking them, this very question. I mean, are they seeing the same things that we're seeing? And a few of them stepped up and talked about how the realtor roles, the people that are realtors, are kind of falling off. People that can't generate business are going and getting part-time or full-time jobs to kind of walk them through this, maybe slowing down of real estate activity. I think the number of houses nationwide sold this year is down. I think it's been I think they want to say a 20-year low or so as far as the number of houses that are transferring. So real estate agents, mortgage brokers, title companies, all these different kind of areas that support the real estate industry, the business is down and it's a little bit slow. So the question is, and what I wanted to start off with tonight before we talk a little bit about remote work and how that kind of affects us as investors, is just what do we do? What do we do in a market that's slowing down? A lot of you listening, a lot of you that are active in WREIA are part-time investors. I understand that. But we have many, many full-time investors. And if you're like me, you get nervous. You get nervous when things are a little slow, or you have more time than you're used to during the day. Hey, what do I do? I can't really, if I have no houses to renovate, or if nobody's complaining about, problems at the rental house, I don't have much to do. I vividly remember this when I first started. I would finish all my marketing by about 10 o'clock. And I didn't have any houses, didn't have any business. And I would just kind of be so guilty, just kind of sitting around, waiting, hoping, praying that the phone would ring. And once it did, I would jump on it and I would go look at the house, and I would do everything I can to kind of keep busy, to tell you the truth. But what do we do? What do we do when the market's a little bit slow? How can we keep our business moving forward? Or if you're part-time, what are the things that you can do on a constant basis to keep moving forward, to keep feeling like you're making progress toward your ultimate goal? Now, whatever that goal is, I'm sure it's more money, more time, more flexibility, more rental property, more passive income, maybe a couple more renovation projects, whatever aspect of real estate investment that you're in. But I'm sure you want a little more business. So what are the things we can do? Number one, I was thinking about this as I drive around, because again, folks, this affects me too. I mean, I think about this stuff. I live and breathe this stuff all the time. And I ask myself the same question. Okay, what are the things that I should be doing on a regular basis, whether I'm busy or I'm slow? But especially when I'm slow, instead of just kind of moping around saying, oh, the business is changing and I can't find any more deals. What are the things that we can continue to do? Number one, I think we can continue to network. We can always network with people in our business. So when you get that phone call and you have the time to go to a title company luncheon or educational event, maybe take the time to do that. You network more. The theory is there's more people in that room that are involved in real estate. Maybe there's a deal there that someone is kind of playing around with, but they don't quite know how to close that deal. Or maybe there is a contractor there that you can kind of put in your database. So when you need a good person to tile a bathroom, that you met them at that educational event. So number one is constantly network. Always be networking. Take a certain amount of time during the course of the week and network. You can do this part-time, and you certainly can do it as a full-time investor. Now, again, you can do this online. You can also do it in person. Old school John, I like in person. We've been doing these online meetings now for 2.5 years, and man, it's great. It's ability to connect with people. It's ability to spread the message, if you will, a little bit broader. Certainly like a night like tonight, I came out of the house to come back to the office to do the WREIA meeting. And man, it was pouring down rain. The wind was blowing. Traffic was kind of a mess. I thought, wow, in this case, this is great to have an online meeting. People don't have to slog through to get over to the Women's Club of Bethesda for a meeting. Although I still believe in person, you want to continue to doing that, because there's something about that connection in my mind when seeing somebody in person and talking to them and passing out contact information and following up with them and just seeing their vibe and if you can do business with them. But continue to network. Number two, in a slower market, or when you have a little more time, work on your marketing. Remember, you're in the marketing business. You're really not in the real estate investment business. You're in the marketing business. Realtors are in the marketing business. Loan officers are in the marketing business. We're marketing our services to consumers, to people that have a product that we want. As a buy, renovate, and sell investor, I'm marketing to people that own homes that are in need of work. My service is that I can't buy them all. I don't fit for all of them. But there's certain situations, certain houses, certain places in life that people are where my service is needed and wanted. I got to market that message to those people so we can constantly improve on that. Take the time now to review anything that you're doing, and more importantly, anything that you're not doing. Right? Sometimes we get into bad habits of saying, you know what, I don't need to mail letters anymore. They don't work. I don't need to go to any kind of real estate networking events. I already know everything. I don't need to, occasionally walk in a real estate office and meet a few new realtors. The problem is that when you start saying no, 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 you end up doing no marketing. And I can assure you, in a competitive business that we're in, if you don't do any marketing and let enough people know about what you're doing, you're not going to have any luck. So work on your marketing. Go back, think about what's worked, what hasn't worked. Think about, if you have not a lot of money, things that you can do for low costs. And there are things you can, work your social media accounts. You can work your network. You can start calling people up and inviting them to lunch or a breakfast, or just talking to them for a few minutes on the phone. Let people know that you're out there. Okay. So you can network, you can market. You also, as we said, you can get more educated, and maybe that's just getting better at something. One of the things that I see is that there is always a way for us to get better, right? I can be much better deliverer of this message on Washington WREIA. I know that. I work on it. But I can always get better at it, right? I can always get better at picking up the phone, and when someone calls me, having the right responses, the right language, and repeating that. So it's a process. So I can share that with other people. You can always get better at closing. You can take an cheap online course on how to close sales, right? You can always get better at that. We all can get better to be better closers. As it gets more competitive, the people that can close will get more deals. So there's always something we can do and get better. So don't think education means going out and spending $10,000 for a private mentor from Las Vegas to fly in here for a week. If you have the ability to do that and it's something you think you can need, great. But you don't have to do that, right? You don't have to spend that kind of money. So when I say get educated, I mean whatever you deem necessary, where the holes are in your business. Now is the time to fill those holes. Now is the time to get that out of the way. So as the market picks up and maybe your business picks up a little bit, you'll be ready for that opportunity. Something else, you could create a new niche. What do I mean by that? Maybe you are a wholesaler. That's kind of what you want to do. You've heard and you've learned and you've done a few wholesale deals, and you've had a little bit of success. And now is the time maybe to add something to that mix. Maybe you learn how to buy an investment property for long-term rental, right? You study the financing, you study property management, you study how to find a good rental, the right market, the numbers, right? What you should be paying for the property, what it needs to rent for, some of the auxiliary costs like taxes, property management, insurance, maintenance, all the things that go into owning a rental property. Maybe now's the time to step back a little bit. You kind of understand wholesaling, you kind of have some things going there, but now's the time to kind of add a new niche to your business. Maybe it's learning how to buy notes. Maybe it's tackling your first buy, renovate, and sell project. Maybe it's getting a real estate license. Some folks on our team of 23, they've kind of through this process of the last 6 months understood for some of them that getting a real estate license made a lot of sense. There was access to information. They could network in the office. There was great educational opportunities there. They could save money on their listings if they listed a buy, renovate, and sell or a rental property. There was some advantages of getting a real estate license. So just adding to your tool kit, if you will, in a slow market makes a lot of sense. So all these things you can do in a slow market. You can network more. You can work hard on your marketing because we're in a marketing business. You can get more education or just get better at something. Okay. Get better at part of your business that maybe you're lacking a little bit. Create a new niche. Learn something new or add something to the mix to help your business grow. So all those things are very important. They can really move you forward in a slower market. I'm a big sports fan. A lot of you know that. And I realized recently, I like all sports. I mean, there's not really a sport I don't like, but I love basketball. I love college basketball, college football. I love baseball, and many of you know or don't know. I find out a lot of people aren't sports fans, but we're in the middle of a World Series, so you get a good media attention toward baseball and the baseball players. And I love behind the scenes stuff. I like learning about the players and how they got to where they are, and all those good things. And the Texas Rangers, who are playing the Arizona Diamondbacks, have a shortstop. His name is Corey Seager, and there was a great article on Corey Seager today, just about how he goes about, and he's a tremendous player, plays shortstop. I think he makes $30-40 million a year. If we only could have just learned how to play a little bit better baseball as kids. Corey Seager was talking about, and they were talking about him, how he has a process, how his process is rock solid, where he is consistent in that process every single day, on the field and off the field. And he really doesn't let anything get in the way of that process. And I was thinking, I was reading that article, it's very, very similar to us as real estate investors, business owners, or whatever you're doing in your life. We really need to marry ourselves to the process and understand that the results will follow. We can tweak that process, certainly. We can ask for help. We can ask for maybe people that have come before us, if you will, that have a little bit more experience. But we need to understand that process and what we're trying to ultimately accomplish. Now, I'm sure Corey Seager's ultimate goals, I don't know, but probably win a World Series as a team goal, and probably professionally wants to win what they call a Gold Glove for his fielding and maybe a batting title. But he wants to be the very, very best player that he can possibly be to help his team win a World Series. Well, as real estate investors, and most of us are smaller mom and pop type operations, but it doesn't matter. We still want to be the best real estate investor and have the most success that we can within our abilities, within our experiences, within our upbringings, and all those things that kind of come into play. We want to accomplish that. And some of that is being consistent in our process, even when things don't feel like they're going tremendously well. And when I say tremendously, meaning we're not getting enough leads, we're not closing enough deals, we're not seeing some of the things that we want to accomplish because the market slowed down a little bit. And let me tell you, folks, I don't care who you are. If you've been in the real estate investment business for a while, there are going to be market swings. There's going to be good years. There's going to be okay years. There's going to be maybe a few years that aren't so great. So there is going to be a little bit ups and downs in business. But having that process, and I read that again a second time later on this afternoon, and I thought that is tremendous. It's something that we all can adapt and kind of commit to, not worry so much about the results day to day. Don't let our moods and our actions be always based on what we're getting back. If we do these right things, we're going to have some of the results that we're looking for. So I thought that was a great article. Corey Seager's a tremendous player. Look forward to watching a little bit more of that World Series as we go forward. So I hope some of those things have helped. And again, the reason I bring that up is because I'm hearing it. I'm hearing it from people that are calling me. I'm hearing it from our vendors and our contractors. I'm feeling it in my own business. When you've been doing this 25 plus years, 30 plus years, like I have, you start getting a sense of your business and the flow. Generally, this time of year, just so you know, is a great time for real estate investors. People get lazy. People start looking for the holidays. People start kind of easing back a little bit. As a real estate investor, it's a great time to pick up some properties for the winter months, whatever strategy that you're looking to do. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit going forward. As I said, we've just finished up our team of 23. These are our live meetings that we have once a month with a smaller group of people. And we had a meeting on Saturday, and we got talking about the subject tonight a little bit. I was just kind of asking them and doing a little bit of survey with them on what they're feeling. Those of them that work in offices that are either corporate or government or anything else. So what they're seeing with the remote work, because I'm just starting to read a lot more, and a lot more things are coming about how this work life, all our work lives, has been totally flipped upside down in the last 2 or 3 years. And I just say that, hey, the workers got a taste of what I've been telling people for years and years. One of the greatest advantages of being an entrepreneur or owning your own business, however big, if it's 100 people, 100,000 people, or 3 people, one of the greatest benefits of it is kind of the freedom, if you will, the freedom to be able to create your own schedule, the freedom to not work exactly from 9 to 5. I mean, some of us are morning people. I tend to be a morning person. Some of us are evening people. We'd rather work from 7 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the morning versus getting up at 6 a.m. and starting our workday. Being an entrepreneur, being on your own, you're allowed to do that. No one's going to tell you otherwise. You don't have to sit in a wasted meeting and just sit there knowing that you're getting nothing out of it. You know, you can have a dentist appointment at 2 o'clock. You know, you can get in your car on a nice day, roll down the windows, crank up the radio and go for a 2-hour drive if you want to this time of year to see the pretty fall foliage. So it's a great benefit of being on your own. Well, what's happened is the corporate world, folks that report to work every single day that have to get on metro trains and have to take buses and have to get in their car and sit on the beltway every single day, got a taste of what it's like to have a little bit of freedom in their life. And they've discovered that, man, that's awesome. I can still accomplish all my work and I have all this extra time and flexibility to do other things. Why would anybody want that? Of course, it's something that's going to be wanted, I think, in a workplace, especially quote unquote older workers, people that have been established and are in a routine and understand their colleagues and have met, and understand their workflow. They love it. Why do you think? And if you're a golfer like I am, the golf courses are packed. You can't get a tee time. You can't walk up to a public golf course and get a tee time. These tee teams are been just slammed. And I've asked a couple starters here last few weeks, why is this? How did golf get so popular? And they said it's just basic remote work. People are saying, you know what? I'm going to get up a little earlier today. I'm going to work from 6 to 11 o'clock. I'm going to go play golf from 11:30 or 12 to 4. I'm going to come back and do an extra 2 or 3 hours of work. And I'm good. I don't have to be anywhere per se. As long as I get my work done, my bosses and my company is fine. So no wonder all this has happened. So how is this going to affect us? So we asked this team of 23 and I asked people how they're doing. And the responses were very interesting, actually, to me, because I've never worked for anybody. I've always had my own little small business. And some of them said a lot of the companies now are kind of pseudo requiring us to come back 2 or 3 days a week. And when I say pseudo, I mean because it's not a strict policy in a lot of companies quite yet. I had one person tell me that they have not been back to the office since 2020 and don't plan on being. They haven't been back once. Works for University of Maryland Medical Services. Haven't been back once. My own little world here, my son who works for a government contractor, they're requiring them to go back now a couple days a week. And he told me that one of the memos was that if you don't, or you're not accounted for, you can't get promoted within the company. But that was kind of interesting. And I don't know how they track that. He said he went into the office the other day and a couple of his managers left at 12:30 and asked him when he was going to leave. Well, he wasn't quite done with work yet. So I'm not sure how strict some of this is going to be. Some of the bigger companies, the tech companies, I'm sure you've read, they're requiring people to come back. They're slamming people for coming back. They're kind of seeing and understanding that maybe people aren't quite as productive as everyone thought. I do think it's personally rough on younger workers. I think, yeah, I get it. You got to commute. Yeah, I get it. There's, boring meetings you got to be at. And sometimes you're done with your work and you want to leave on a beautiful Friday afternoon. But there is something about innovation, connection, mentoring, some of those things that young workers are not going to get. I believe they're going to get more and more isolated. I don't think it's a good thing. But again, old school. I believe that for some of those folks, it's not quite as good, but they might not know the difference. So I'm sure they'll figure it out like everyone tends to do. So basically what I came away from that little survey with our team of 23 is that that's here to stay. And I already knew that. And that companies are trying to get people to come back. And if anyone has any comments too, please throw them up on the comment board. I'm happy to talk to them. What's your experience? How many days are you required to go back? If you work for a company, what are you seeing when you go back? Are people coming back? Is it anything that's kind of mandated, or is it just kind of on your own? I know a lot of folks like the flexibility of working from their house, but this remote work continues to grow. That's the first thing we want to definitely, make sure everyone understands, and I think obviously that you do. It seems like we're going to go to a hybrid work model. Okay. It seems like we're going to a hybrid work model. It seems that that's what most of the companies are going to do. That, hey, you're required to be at the office 3 days a week, generally Tuesday through Thursday. I'm sure you've all seen the articles, the new work week, Tuesday to Thursday. Traffic patterns are showing this. I travel the Beltway a lot, and I see that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are much, much more crowded. Today, I went from Rockville up to Germantown to Bowie, and I had no traffic. I mean, it was, then back down to Rockville, and it was very, very quick. So no traffic on a Monday. So a lot of folks are staying home on Mondays. Goose, I like the name. My federal agency is pushing for us to work 3 days a week, start January 2024. And that's what it seems like. But what's interesting, Goose, is what I think kind of what my son has experienced is how will that be enforced? And is that going to be really loose? So I'll be curious to see how that works out for you. But it seems like Goose's experience, my son's experience, other people I've talked to, seems like that hybrid's working. And I'm setting this up to tell you why I think how this is going to all reflect as real estate investors, and how we can, make sure that we're positioned to be in front of this. Okay, so let's go into that a little bit. This the housing preference, and if you read my emails, I know some of you do, some of you don't. In fact, I know a lot of you do, because we get an incredible open rate in our emails. So I know folks are reading them, and you saw there that a lot over 50%, way over 50%. This is done by big brokerages, the RE/MAXs, the Redfins of the world. When they're looking for a property now, when they're looking for a house to either rent or buy, remember this can affect rentals too. They're all looking for a dedicated workspace. And again, I'm sorry I refer back to my son, but he's 23, and I don't know a tremendous amount of 23. He's just their friends. So I used him as an example. When he was looking for a new rental, he did the same thing. When he went upstairs and saw a property with kind of this loft area, he goes, Dad, this, when he showed me pictures, he goes, this is a great space to work from. So this is happening everywhere, obviously, but more than half are definitely, as they look for new places to live, are looking for that workspace. So as real estate investors, well, we'll circle back with that. But obviously we know that should be something that we consider as we look for houses. I would like to be added to your email list. Well, Aaron, that would be no problem. We'll certainly do that for you. Increased property values. I think this is fascinating, and I know this there's an opportunity here, is that as this work and hybrid expands, and again, we're on the forefront of this. We're just at the beginning. People are trying to figure all this out. But think about this. As this takes hold and you're only required, let's go back to Goose. And I don't know where Goose lives, but if Goose only has to be somewhere for 3 days a week, he's got another 4 days, right? And maybe 5 days, because that could be a loose 3 days, to live somewhere. Why couldn't he live in Charlottesville, Virginia, and commute back up to Tyson's Corner 2 days a week and maybe spend a night in the hotel? Maybe you could live in an area that's less expensive, maybe that has more of what you're looking for as a place to live, if you're only required to be somewhere a couple of days a week. I was reading an article before I came on today called Super Commuters. Have you heard about this? This is great. I mean, this is where people are literally living in, let's say the article was, the person was living in Iowa, and he would commute to San Francisco because he was only required to be there 2 to 3 days a week every few weeks. He would just get a hotel for a couple of days, and then he would come back to Iowa, where his family was, where cost of living is much cheaper, still getting a San Francisco, California salary. So think about that. Some of the other folks were talking about, living or part-time living in areas where they can do more skiing, do more hiking, do more outdoor activities. I mean, this is going to change the patterns of real estate in this country. I have no doubt. I mean, if you don't have to live so close to your work, and a lot of the work is in the big cities on the coast, if you can see more workflow in the, middle of the country, things of that nature, where it's a lot less expensive to live, you're going to see a shift. There's no doubt. Or the cities like Washington, our ex-burbs, our suburbs are going to grow. Okay, so not that Fredericksburg hasn't grown already, but it's going to grow more. Not that Frederick and out Hagerstown, out those ways, going to grow. It's going to grow even more. As people don't have to make that grind, they're going to go to some of these places that are a little less expensive, maybe a little wide open. You're seeing that trend come out of the cities a little bit. So it's pretty interesting. So I think you're going to see some increased values in some of those areas. A survey by Gen Z. Again, I get all my generations all mixed up. I think I'm on like the very, very last, or I missed the baby boomers by a couple of years, but millennials, Gen X, Gen Z, I'm not sure, but Gen Z is definitely the younger workers, if you will. And they did this study on these Gen Z workers, and a lot of them are opting to live in places you wouldn't believe. The number one state that's getting Gen Z is South Dakota. Now, I've been to South Dakota. South Dakota is a beautiful state. If you ever get a chance to go to the Black Hills of South Dakota, go. If you ever get a chance to go out there, there's national monuments. I mean, there's reservations that are beautiful. I mean, it's a great state to visit and take a vacation. People wouldn't realize that. But to live there would be a little bit tough. It's cold. It's really cold. But this survey was really showing that a lot of these Gen Zs were moving to some of these less expensive areas. And a lot of them are in the Midwest, Kansas, Nebraska, North Dakota. Now, North Dakota I've never been to. It's one of the states I still need to check off. But there's a lot of this going on. Now, I'm not telling you to go run and buy a rental in South Dakota, but that's where some of this population is going to go, to some of these different states when we have a different type of work-life balance. So it's going to be interesting. You still have some top states. I pulled this stat out. Florida, Texas, North and South Carolina, Arizona have experienced the highest population growth. So a lot of these states, the common states, the ones you see, are still being favored by a lot of generations. But that Gen Z, they're tending to go northern. They're tending to go Midwest. They're tending, if they can. I have a nephew, graduate school at Georgetown. He's looking to take a government job in Nebraska, of all places. Okay. He said, listen, the cost of living there, I can live a great middle-class life on a government salary that he knows he's working toward, and have a pretty good life. And he likes cold weather, and he likes different aspects of that. So it's really kind of interesting how some of these patterns are going to happen. And it's all based on remote work. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about how this is going to affect us as real estate investors. And again, I thought, as we do research and topics, some of these are subtle, but they're very, very interesting. And you have to be a little bit aware of this as you move toward your real estate goals, because some of this can make a difference. Certainly, if you can buy some houses outside of maybe what you traditionally do, maybe go out a little bit further. Some of I've been in Southern Maryland more than ever. Some of that is just, I got a great partner, and also the values. We can get a better return on our investment for the values. And so one of the houses that we sent on email, kind of circling all the way back to that, it was an example of just a very simple before and after in a rehab. But what also happened there, and the gentleman, the partner that I had in this deal, he saw this clearly. He said, listen, a lot of people that come down here want a little more space, and most likely what's going to happen is they're going to put some kind of outbuilding on this land. They're going to put an outbuilding on land and probably throw an office above it for a remote workplace. And man, we got many people that are interested in doing that. And that led us to research a little bit more about exactly what could be put on that property from a setback area and so forth. We weren't going to do it. We weren't going to put on. A lot of I let the buyer dream. I set it up. I try to give them a good product. But some of those things are very hard to get a return on your investment. But you can let the buyer dream. And sure enough, that was a lot of questions about putting that outbuilding on for remote remote work. So you're going to see more and more of that in your real estate investments and how you're going to position yourself to really take advantage of that. When you take your next rehab, and I get it. I'm went under contract today on a townhouse, and as I was walking through it, believe it or not, I was trying to think, okay, how am I going to sell this as a dedicated space to work? Um, Lower level, maybe a spare bedroom, maybe a nook somewhere in the house, but you kind of have to think through that a little bit. And that doesn't say that you don't buy the place because you can't find any of that. Not everybody is looking for this, but it's helpful. The more value, the more um, benefits of that house you can add, the less objections the buyer are going to have, and you're probably going to sell that house for a little bit more money. So, a lot of things to consider when you're talking about that remote work, and just keep an eye on it. And those of you that are working corporately, I think it was Goose and so forth, some of you, um, think through that as you're going back to work, and let us know how you're seeing your colleagues and other people, how they're handling some of this. And if you're seeing some people move out a little bit or move to a different type of property as all that unfolds. Okay. Now, I want to take a minute to tell you what is coming up. I have a confession to make. Some of you know this, some of you don't know this. I had a huge advantage in this business, and it looks like we have some new people online. You might not know my background or my history, but I've been buying and renovating and selling properties for 25 plus years. I own rental properties. I buy and sell notes. I've lent money for years and years. I also do some of this teaching and mentoring to other people. But when I got started, I had a huge advantage. And my advantage was the person that I met when I first got into business. His name was Ernie Kessler. And some of you may have heard that word. Ernie passed away many, many years ago. But Ernie Kessler was my mentor. And I had the unique opportunity to travel with Ernie. Ernie was a teacher and a speaker and a mentor to a lot of investors across the country. And I had a chance to travel with him. I got to fly with him. I got to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner with him. I got to spend time in hotel lobbies, countless hours and hours in hotel lobbies, analyzing his talks and just talking generally about the business very early on in my business. And as I was learning real estate investment. And why do I say this is advantage? Well, as I told you, we just finished up the team of 23, and we are going to be forming a new team. Obviously, not too creative. It'll be the team of 24 for 2024. And we're going to start up in January. This will be for 6 meetings, live meetings. This will be really, and the reason I mentioned Ernie is because one of the greatest advantages, I realized this again Saturday. I'm always realizing things, but it was so cool to see that group and see how people were interacting and seeing how much business was being done just in that small group. This is limited 24 people, like this year was listed at 23. I'll just give you a few examples. We have people, as we're talking through, we were talking about tax-free exchanges. We were talking about selling rental property and then moving that money and trying to kind of juice up our real estate holdings, if you will, kind of all the ins and outs of that. And someone just raised their hand and said, listen, I'm doing some wholesale deals, and can you talk at all about transactional funding? Well, back of the room, guy pops up his hand. Yes, I do transactional funding. In fact, he gave a great presentation on being a lender the month before. It was fascinating, like behind the curtain, exactly what are they looking for? Exactly how do you qualify? Exactly how much money down? What are their rates? How do they build their business? So if you ever wanted to get in the lending business, you'd have a resource right there. And he took about 10 minutes and just explained transactional funding and how their company does it, what to expect, and how to get in touch with them. And it was tremendous. Toward the end of the meeting, someone asked about, he had an opportunity to do a little bit assisted living. And, did anybody have any information on that? Well, Wayne, front of the room, hand pops up. That's exactly what he does for a living. He works setting up assisted living and kind of an expert in that field. And I thought, man, this is what these groups are about. It's about learning from people that are doing things. It's about having a resource and networking group that can help you move your business along so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And my little secret and my advantage that a lot of you do know and maybe don't know is that I had Ernie Kessler. He was a huge resource for me. As I said, I traveled with him. I talked his ear off, and he didn't pay me a tremendous amount of money, but he said, anytime you have a question, anytime you're confused about something, anytime you're in a deal, let me know. and I will help you. And man, did he ever. And I remember vividly in Orlando, Florida, sitting across the bed with him in a hotel room and asked him, Ernie, I am really want to do this business. Can I do this? I hear you talk about all these examples. Can I do this? And how do I get going in this? And man, he just broke that down and gave me the steps to start. And it wasn't rocket science, but I knew I had someone right there that I could call, I could text, I could figure out how to make this business reality for me. And I was so thankful for that because it changed my life. And so the reason I'm saying this is that if you want to be a part of a group like that, where there are great resources and it's surrounded by people that are doing the business, and all of our talks, all of our subject matter is born from the group. We take surveys and we try to really tailor it to what you want to learn. And we try to help each other accomplish those goals. Now, sometimes it doesn't happen in 6 months. I get that. But hopefully there's a spark there. Hopefully there's something there that will move you past the roadblock that's holding you back in the real estate investment business. The reason I say this is, again, we're starting up in January for the team of 24. We do have some openings. We'd love you to be a part of it. In a few minutes here, there's going to be a link, very simple link that you can go to sign up. Many of you know, but it's $595. We do collect some money to keep you all accountable, to keep you coming to those meetings and keeping you motivated in order to accomplish those goals that you want to with the team of 23. You see that, you can get online, you can buy a ticket. Once we've sold 24, this will stop. We will go through this here this fall as we gear up for beginning of next year. Folks, we are positioned for some of the greatest opportunities we've had in a number of years as this market slows down, as interest rates stay high for a while. 2024 could be a transformational year for many of you. So I encourage you to get to be part of this group. Live meetings, there's nothing like them. We can connect, we can ask questions, we can linger, we can get those resources and connections. We give everybody's contact information, and it's a great group. So I hope that a lot of you will take me up on that. I know there's an investment there. I can assure you that you'll look back on it and it'll be worth it. If you attend those meetings and you put forth the effort, you can and will accomplish your goals in real estate investment. I'm going to end tonight with a request. I've kind of pitched it here a little bit on the team of 24, and I hope many of you will join me, but I have a request. I'm always talking about networking. I'm always talking about going to your network for specific needs, and I have a need tonight. I mentioned the team of 23 meeting on Saturday. We talked about 1031 tax-free exchanges, and I just completed a tax-free exchange. I sold a property that I owned for many years in South Carolina, and now I have the ability to buy two properties, two long-term rental properties. And I'm in the process of doing that. I've identified those properties. If you know anything about tax-free exchanges, you have an opportunity to identify, and then you have to close those properties within a certain period of time. It's about 180 days, about 6 months. You can close those properties. So when I sold this property, I have X amount of dollars, I'll tell you here in a minute, into an escrow account. So I've identified two properties. One is in South Carolina. One is in Bryan's Road, Maryland. Okay. The other thing about a tax-free exchange is you got to keep your same amount of debt that you had on the property that you sold. All right. So I'm asking my network, I'm throwing it out. I'm looking for someone that is interested in financing one, two, partial of these properties. Okay. I'm putting a tremendous amount. I'm putting literally about $170,000 down payment on a $300,000, $320,000 home. Okay. They both cash flow great. So I'm looking for two $150,000 loans. These will be a term for 3 to 5 years. We can talk about the rate. It'll be a very healthy rate. So if you or you know anybody, you have a retirement account, you have capital sitting around that you want worked, it'll be very highly secured, backed by myself. So, reach out if you know of anyone or you want a conversation about that, about the property, about some of the specifics. You can text me at that number. I'm happy to talk to you about that. As I said, I'm looking for $250,000 ballpark. If it's less, it's less. We have the capital to put down on the property, so there'll be significant amount of money, security. So if for any reason I don't pay, and I don't miss payments, but if I don't pay, you would take back the property and literally have a couple $100,000 of equity from day one. So a very secure investment. And I'm just asking my group, my network, to see if anyone has that. I can't get Fannie and Freddie Mac money. I own too much real estate. Many of you know, as real estate investors, we try to report as little money as possible on our tax returns. And once we have a certain amount of rental property, it's very difficult to get Fannie and Freddie money. There's other capital out there, but one of my stumbling blocks, just behind the curtain here, is that they require you to put the property in an LLC. Cannot be an LLC because my wife and I own this property individually as tenants in entirety. They will not loan to someone in their personal name. I can tell you why if you want a separate conversation about that. So I'm going to raise the money privately. So if you know of anyone, let me know. Be happy to talk to you more about that. Hope you take us up on our team of 24. If you need anything in the meantime, I know we got a little late October meeting here, so we will be doing another meeting in fairly soon, because here we are. I guess Wednesday is November 1st, so we'll be back in November with our another online meetings. If you have any topics, any comments, reach out to us. Hey, we're here. We're active in the business, and we're looking for things. Looking for things to talk about. Joseph, I'm sorry, just reading your comment. I learned about this company through my mom. Well, Joseph, I hope that maybe you picked up a nugget or two tonight. One of the things that we strive to do at Washington WREIA is very simple. We try to give you practical things that we're doing, practical things that we're experiencing, myself and other people in our network, and we try to pass those along so you can use it in your business. Very practical things. We try not to do a lot of selling on these meetings. We're just kind of here as kind of a little bit of a give back. And we build our networks, and that's how we all benefit from real estate investment, building out your network and going to your network with certain needs, certain support, if you will, to help you continue to grow your business. So any more comments tonight? I'll give you a second or two. Any other questions you might have, anything you're experiencing in remote work, anything you're seeing in the market, or anything else you might want to comment on. Feel free to comment. Norm, thanks. Your thoughts, John, about office to residential in all metro areas, not just DMV. Norm, Norm, again, another person in our network that is plugged in. And that's a great question. Norm, it's funny you said that, because I was 3 days ago, I was on 10X. I don't know if you've ever been on that website, 10X. They're an auction website. And I saw a property in Rockville pop up. So it got my attention. For those of you tuning in tonight, my office is in Rockville, Maryland. It was a huge office building right by Metro, positioned. I mean, I don't think you could have a better location than near Metro stations in the District, Maryland, Virginia area. And it was going up for auction. Now, clearly with 10X, they start with an opening bid just to get people hooked. I have no idea where this will go, but it was starting out at $2.5 million. And the whole vibe was it was a perfect office to residential conversions. We got a problem, right? We got a problem. And the problem is through this remote work, and I'm sorry I missed this, Norm, thanks so much for kind of jogging me here. One of our problems is because no one's going to offices anymore, a lot of these buildings are empty. As leases expired the last year or two, there's been no new tenants. This office building, I want to say it's 250,000 square feet. It's a big building. It's completely vacant. Well, folks, I don't care who you are. At some point, that's going to be very, very difficult to maintain. And what's happening is some of these bigger funds are giving back the buildings. They're handing them back to the banks. They're walking away from perceived equity. I'm sure they had money invested in the property when they initially bought it, but they're saying no more. We can't hold on to them. So these banks are going to be taking back a lot of these, what we call BC properties that are not brand new, not trophy properties. That market seems to be doing okay. Recently read an article in New York where some of the bigger buildings were getting still very, very healthy leases. But a lot of these buildings around here and outer suburbs, I was in Sterling, Virginia, and I saw a series of buildings, no cars around on a Wednesday. That's frightening. So Norm's question is how those buildings, what's going to happen? See, usually in a market cycle, if you've been around the real estate business, we go through cycles. Usually those commercial buildings are priced down. Some new hedge fund or somebody comes in and buys them at a level they think makes sense, and then they ride the market back up. The challenge now is there's no demand, like zero demand for these buildings. So something has to change with their use. From what I know, Norm, and Norm, you know me well enough that I'm honest. I'm not a big commercial developer on any level. So that business is a little foreign to me. But from what I've seen and what I've read, very, very difficult to turn those buildings from commercial to residential. There's so many moving parts in those buildings. And from what I've read, it's a lot of the HVAC, heating, ventilation type, electrical issues, plumbing issues, things that are very difficult to change over, whether you want to do, apartments, condos, hotels, different things. I've seen people say that you're almost better off just bulldozing it and starting over than going through some of those conversions. Just the cost. And Norm, as an experienced renovator, we both know how expensive just painting a house is these days. I can't imagine retrofitting some of these buildings. So I think what's going to happen. Oh, another side note, and if I'm butchering this, I apologize, but I think it's called PIMCO, big commercial real estate and investment company. I love this article. This just cracked me up. They literally just gave back roughly $220 million of office space. They handed back to the banks. They said, we're out. We can't make this work anymore. And then on the flip side, they're raising $3 billion, and they say they almost have it raised, in a fund to buy bad commercial debt. You got to love that. Those offices are brilliant. They get paid going in, they get paid going out. So there's going to be a lot of capital moving into this commercial real estate space, vultures, if you will, trying to pick up some of this, in their minds, well-positioned real estate and turning it into something else. You hear a lot about residential because we obviously need housing. You hear a lot about storage because Americans have too much stuff. But man, I don't know. I don't know how we can become a part of that as a smaller investor. Certainly you can invest in a REIT or you can invest in a company that is doing that. But I think it'll be interesting. We have a lot of it around here. We have a lot of BC buildings spread out across the DMV that I just don't know what people are going to do. I'm in a building, medical building kind of, but on the top floor, two tech companies, government backed, if you will, government contractors took up the majority of this floor, moved out. And every time I pass them in the morning or in the evening, I think to myself, wow, who is going to move in here? I mean, how are these owners of some of these buildings making it? And, the funny thing is, Norm, and this might have been your dream or not, but one of my dreams is I always wanted to own a big commercial building in the middle of a city. I mean, that was always kind of a fascination and dream of mine. Man, I'm glad that dream never came true because sitting on a couple $100 million asset with no money coming in is going to be pretty tough. Lionel, thanks for the info. Enjoyed being here. Appreciate it. Hopefully you'll follow up with us and we can help you out. Norm, I don't know if that answered any of your questions, but this is what I think we know. We know a lot of these buildings are going to be turned back to the banks. We know the banks have to do something with them. There's going to be a lot of pain. So they're looking for solutions too. One of the solutions that's always been floated, as you know, and as you reference, is taking that commercial building and going back to a residential use. The question is how many of those buildings realistically can really be done in that way? And is it literally just going to be a bloodbath where they're just going to have to raise some of these older buildings and start over? And then what's the building worth? Really, it's worth, the land and less demoing that building. So it's going to be very, very interesting because I don't think the genie's out of the bottle, if you will. We're not going back to 5 days a week, 40, 50 hours a week commuting for the vast majority of the workforce. We're just not going to go back to that. So how does this new phenomenon working going to shape transportation? How's it going to shape real estate? How's it going to shape, just our work life? So it's going to be an interesting ride. I just encourage you to keep reading about it, keep looking for opportunities for yourself and how your business can maybe be a little bit a part of this on a level that we are as smaller investors. And it's going to be interesting. And we have one gentleman in the team of 23, this lender, that's really talking about, watch out. And I agree with them. Watch out for some of these local regional banks. One that comes to mind is Sandy Spring Bank in our area. Sandy Spring Bank is heavily invested in our local commercial real estate market. And question is, if all these landlords start handing back these properties, what are the banks going to do? So I think you're going to see a little bit of give and take. I think the banks are going to have to give some investors a little more time if they're working on new leases and some of that. But man, we shall see. We shall see. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you can become part of Team of 24. We'll certainly be sending out more information on that. If any of you yourself or know of anyone with some private money that want a good investment for a few years, reach out. Be happy to talk to you about that. Other than that, folks, enjoy your Halloween tomorrow night. Enjoy these last few days of just been an incredible, beautiful fall. And keep getting out there, investing in real estate. Let us know if we can help you in any way. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back next month with more Washington WREIA. Take care.